Good morning, everybody. It's Josh. Today I was researching a little bit about xenophobes, which seems to be well, for those who don't know, xenophobia is the fear of the unknown, or the fear of strangers, or the fear of strange places. Basically, it would be the fear of any change, anything different than one's own culture. And I came across another word that was related to it, which I liked. It's ethnocentricity, which is putting one's own ethnic background at the center of the universe. It's making whatever you believe and whatever your group of friends believes to be the be-all, end-all of truth. And we run across this a lot. I mean, generally ethnocentricity relates to customs and cultures. So it would be, that our particular culture and the way that we worship and the way that we dress and the way that we do things is the right way to do things. And I'm living in a world of xenophobes, and it's frustrating at times because it comes out in little tidbits when people say something like, "Oh yeah, that's just the damn Mexicans," "Oh, it's those Mexicans doing this and that," or you see a person, "Oh, well, that's a black guy for you," or and it's not even just racial, "Oh, that guy's a Jew," or "that guy's a Christian." Generally, it's not really a matter of what the person believes that is the issue. It's a matter of that they don't believe the same thing that we do. And so a xenophobe is one who likes to wrap himself up in his little box and pretend that his way of life is the normal way of life. And looking around at the world, I can say there is no normal way of life. None of us are living the way that was intended by nature. And if it is, and if we are living in the light of nature, then I think we have to make a few changes. But I think the biggest issue that we face right now when trying to get along and tolerate one another and to be able to get past our differences is to eliminate that ethnocentrism, to stop thinking that just because you grew up in a little town and this is the way that your town behaves, that everybody else is wrong. And this happens even on a city-to-city level. Let's say you grew up in a small town in New York. You might be likely to talk shit about the city people, all those city folk. "Oh, those are city folk. I don't understand them." And meanwhile, you've got a lot of people living in the city who just call anybody who doesn't live in the city a hick. And that's a very, simple example, but it's one that's very common. And, it's even people sitting in church talking about, "Oh, those people at this other church," or a particular group of politicians saying, "Oh, well, look at the way they do it in this country. This is wrong. They're all messed up." And it's funny because when we point the finger at places like, let's say, the Middle East, that tends to be where a lot of, say, Americans will say, "Look at how screwed up they are. Look what they do to their women, and look at how they live, and look at how much they suppress their free speech and this and that," because we're so used to having an open culture like we have in the West. But when we look at their culture and see how long it's endured, it leaves one to wonder, are we perhaps missing something, in the West? I'm not going as far as to say that all of their practices are legitimate everywhere. I'm saying that each group has their own practice, their own culture, and it's based upon the environmental conditions that they endure and the history behind what has been taught, word of mouth and writing. And it's nobody's place to tell people that their culture is not living properly. Until we have a culture of people who can lead by example and say this is the right way to do it, then we're always going to have this problem. Or until somebody can prove that their way is the right, is what I'm saying. And that'll never happen because there are too many different ways. Ethnocentrism and patriotism are very similar in many regards. I'm a patriot in the sense that I love the freedom and the intention behind some of the meaning behind this country and what some of us intended. but it doesn't mean that I'm a patriot and I support my country merely because it's my country. There's a huge difference there. I've said to people that our government's messed up, and they'll say, well, then why don't you move out of the country? And that's not the way we solve problems. You don't just leave when you have an issue with your family. You resolve it. You talk about it. And that's what we're trying to do here. But Western culture has been trying to push our background on every other culture, because this is the nature of ethnocentrism. One culture develops a way of living that they believe is superior, and then rather than wanting to push it on everybody in the rest of the world, like the West has done, like America has done, let's say, or Britain, it's not necessarily a matter of pushing it on people to change them. It's a matter of pushing it on people to say, look at what we've done, and it's doing so well. Which, you know, maybe in the early part of last century that was true, but you know, as we can see, the Western way of life has failed. So that patriotism was unfounded to some extent. But don't get me wrong, you know, I love the country I live in, but it's not a matter of the politics or the laws. So by looking around at the rest of the world and seeing how different people really are and embracing that, it takes a lot of the weight off of us trying to change the world in the sense of trying to change everybody to think like we do or to dress like we do. And I think it's something that we could all learn from, and I think we could all gain a little bit by just even the worst cultures. Let's take the most, you know, extreme example of something that you would just despise, whatever that may be for you. Really look into the inner workings of that person's mind. Why do they feel that way? And what type of historical events brought about that way of thinking for that group of people? Because it's not always simple. And people aren't just evil by nature. They don't want to just cause trouble by nature. These are brought about as circumstances of environmental conditions. So the more we acknowledge that, the more we learn about that, and the more we learn an open tolerance for people's cultures, then it allows us to come together in a much more concise way. And I can dream, right?